about some strategies, some tax strategies for real estate agents. And, what are some of the best tips that you can provide a real estate agent right now? So people are going to be wrapping up their 2023 stuff, right? They got to go back and maybe it's too late to spend some of that money to get put on the 23, but how do they wrap up 23 effectively and plan for 24?
One of the things, I mean, that realtors need to be aware of is that there's a lot of deductions you can take, and you've got your auto expense. You just have to be careful how you calculate that. You can do a couple of ways. You can do by mileage, or you can do actual expenses. I believe for 2024, the mileage expense is 67 cents per mile. If you have a larger vehicle, such as an SUV, a wrapped vehicle, thing like that, you could typically taking actual expenses such as depreciation and everything that's encompasses on that makes more sense than taking mileage. If you're driving a Prius, you may want to take mileage. You're going to get a bigger deduction by doing that. And one of the key things, Paul, anytime you're taking mileage expense, or even if you're using actual expenses, is you want to keep a mileage log. And I know it's cumbersome, and that's anytime you're not using it, you're using the vehicle not only for personal but also business. You want to keep a mileage log. One of the things that people can use is Mile IQ, for example, is an app out there that many real estate agents, and there's others out there that they can use. Just really any kind of system that works for that. Now, I'm going to give you a little tidbit that most people don't know, and this is a little secret. If maybe you live in an apartment, you don't have space for an office, and your main office is 30 miles away or whatever, you can open a P.O. box close to your home, go to that P.O. box before you start your day, and the rest of the day, your mileage is deducted as long as you're working, going around town. Because your commute mileage to the office is not deductible, but so your commute to your P.O. box a mile away isn't deductible, but the rest of your day would be. So that's a little tidbit. So you have those deductions. That got home office deduction, but that's one of the things you have to be careful with, because that's a big red flag IRS audit issue. The reason being is that people abuse that. They'll say, well, I have a 2,000 square foot home and 1,000 of it or 1,500 of it is business. So they try and write off all of their home expenses to their business. Well, the way that the law reads, or at least in the gray area of it, essentially says that any portion of the home that you use that is exclusively used for business, you can deduct a pro rata or a percentage of the home expenses for that. So, for example, your bedroom would not be deductible. Your kitchen table doesn't work. The kitchen, that kind of thing, basically has to be a dedicated space. Like for you, it looks like for you, you have a dedicated space where you're at. That's your home. And you can, whatever percentage of that you can deduct against, and you can take a percentage of your overall expenses, mortgage interest, insurance, taxes, utilities, and deduct those against your tax. So those are two, the mileage and the home office deduction are huge ones. There's other ones out there, such as you can pay your children a certain amount. I believe it's up to the standard deduction amount. You can, if you have a child, there's a ton of other things out there they can deduct. And if you don't have a CPA that understands that, you want to have someone that understands the real estate business, because we hear that all the time. People are looking, hey, I'm looking for a CPA that actually understands the real estate business. And so we do. There's others that are great as well that do understand it. But just want to make sure, if you're a real estate agent and you're looking for that, you want to have somebody that definitely understands it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's somebody that is very familiar with real estate, how it works, and especially if you as an investor, which hopefully most real estate agents do become an investor themselves, and as you own property, there's a lot more rules and regulations you have to comply with, have an impact. So and it's different if you're a real estate agent owning rental property versus the average Joe owning rental property, right? So there's a lot more advantage to the real estate agent.
Yeah, and there's some key things there too as well, Paul. And I'll kind of talk about this, but also the ways they can kind of structure for them as well. One of the things, if you're a real estate agent and you have rental properties, you can elect to take the real estate professional deduction. How that benefits you is that, if example, if you bought properties and maybe you're renovating them, or maybe you have a short-term rental and on paper you don't owe tax, you have a loss. If you elect that real estate deduction, you can actually take those losses against your regular income. I know this is kind of tax speak and may not be above some people, but for me as a layperson and I'm not a real estate professional. If I have a rental property that loses money, or say you have an international investor that have a rental property that loses money on paper, it's not really, they don't really, but it shows on paper. We cannot take those losses to offset our income, but you as a real estate professional can. So you want to make
Right.
sure you take that real estate professional deduction. Now, one of the other key things that we hear all the time, that I hear when I'm around town, when I'm speaking at an event or doing a seminar on real estate tax for realtors, is that if you're not incorporated and you're getting to the point where you're making a pretty decent amount of money, you need to be. One of the recommendations we say is the S corporation. And the reason for that is, and we don't have time to go into all the details of that, but let's basically suffice it to say that if you have that corporation set up, you want to be able to take a salary. Now, this is your own money, but you're basically taking a salary on paper to show the IRS that I have a salary. And without going into a lot of details there, we can explain, and I'm happy to talk to people about it, about it. But essentially, you're saving yourselves thousands of dollars in self-employment tax by being incorporated and taking a salary. So that's one of the huge things. I spoke to a real estate agent at an event a couple of years ago. She was with another CPA for years, had an S corporation. The CPA was not paying her a wage, and so she was basically giving the IRS money that they didn't deserve. She was with another one that understood her business at the time I met her, and so she was saving herself a ton of money. So it was basically explaining, hey, the things that we talk about are real. So it's super important, again, to have someone that understands your business, whether it's a CPA, enrolled agent, someone that really has that understands the business and has experience in the real estate industry.